Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the long-awaited return of my ongoing series, Propped Up. Now, I took the hiatus I took wasn't necessarily intentional. Just I'm just one person. I don't edit these videos, but they still take a lot out of me. Um, so I just kind of had to give it up for a little bit. Anyway, today I might even just title this Royce Rambles because it's not even really a prop, but it is a piece of history, my history, video game history, and history of one of my favorite comic book characters. Today we are talking about Dr. Penelope Young's notes journal from the collector's edition of Arkham Asylum on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and computer. So, November 2009, I hear about this. Well, I'd heard about for a couple months now about this Batman game that was coming out, and it's really cool, and it has Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill returning to voice the characters, and this was before I had unrestricted access to the internet. So, nowadays, like everyone knows that who Kevin Conroy is or was, and who Mark Hamill is. But back then, I didn't really have access to the internet because, that's not something my mom thought I needed. Even though I was a sophomore, a sophomore in high school. She was like, the computer is for research for schoolwork, and that's it. Um, but so we go out and it for my birthday, and my mom gives me some birthday money to play with. We eat out at Hoo Hot, which was a common thing back then. My mom had a very well-paying job, and so Hoo Hot was my birthday, or had was my birthday thing as a teenager. Because it combined kind of the all-you-can-eat aspect of a buffet with more of the ability to customize your food like Subway, and I really like that. And it was kind of weird because I wasn't very good at making my own dish. I missed out on a lot of important parts, like uh, hot tip: if you make your stuff, or when you're making your stuff at Who Hot, you really gotta work on your, you really gotta make sure you put your soy sauce in there. You need salt. I didn't figure that out until much later in life, but anyway, this isn't about my bad cooking techniques. And then we went to Sam's Club afterward, and I saw Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, and I'm like, oh man, I love Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1. I'm going to get this. Now, little did I know how that it was based mostly around the Civil War comics and how poorly written those were. And also, on a more personal note, how shrunk down the cast was. Like, the original game had so many awesome characters in it. And this game, like, had hinted at a few characters that it didn't actually have. Like, She-Hulk is in the game, but you don't get to play as her. She's just relegated to a boss when a parasitic AI creature that's not even in the comic it's based on. Anyway, so yeah, that was a big regret on my part. Because then we go to GameStop and I see this big Batarang shaped case. And it's the Batman Arkham Asylum for the Xbox 360 Collector's Edition. And I had to have it. And I begged my mom for the extra money, and she reprimanded me saying, Royce, you could have just not bought that game and bought this one instead. And I'm like, I know, but I didn't know that it was here. And she's like, okay, I'll give you the extra money to get it. It was, she needed to I was like $60 short, hence why she was telling me I shouldn't have bought the other game first. And so I bought it. And even before that time, my Batman fandom was really starting to bloom. I mean, this is a year after, Dark Knight, one of the best comic book films, let alone even films of all time. And this was, and like, I also really love Batman Begins. Like, Batman Begins is where my love of Scarecrow started. Um. Anyway, so I had this. I get home with this big box, and inside is just so many cool goodies. So there's obviously the making of DVD. There's there's some stickers. There's this really nice replica batarang. It's not as good as it could be because one, it is mounted into the stand. You cannot take it out without breaking it. And two, it does not collapse like the batarangs do in the game. And then finally this. Now, most games have, when their collector's editions, have an art book and either a making of DVD or a soundtrack. Now, this game didn't come with a soundtrack. The soundtrack isn't particularly robust, and instead of an art book, it came with this: an in-depth character, an in-depth, an in-character profile of all the villains in the game from the perspective of Penelope Young. A pseudo-antagonist, I would say that she's not a bad person. She's merely misguided. She genuinely wants to help people, but her methodology is just very weird. Spoilers for a game that is, over 10 years old at this point, but basically she thinks that she can use a variant of Bane's venom compound to treat mental illness, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, like, it kind of does in a backwards way because Bane was the only successful recipient of the venom steroid compound because he had this intense focus and concentration. So maybe there's this idea that if it breaks a sane person, maybe it would unbreak an insane person. There's a lot of ableist, weird stuff. You don't read Batman for accurate mental, accurate psychiatric stuff, okay? Anyway, also I like her because she's voiced by Cree Summer, who is amazing. Anyway, and I should also say that this is not my original copy. My original copy got loaned out to a classmate of mine named Matt later on, and he never returned it to me. I got this off eBay. So if you're out there, Matt, you still owe me for that, you monster. Matt was a weird kid. He threatened me over accidentally brushing against his 3D art piece. Weirdly, he got suspended for that, but a kid who was notorious for bullying me to the point where another kid, straight up whacked him, smacked him upside the head and got in trouble. Anyway, I don't want to get into high school drama. That I graduated over 10 years ago last year. So let's get into this. Oh, yeah. So we'll take it out of the dust jacket, which is a little worse for wear. Of course, sometimes it's kind of hard to see what's actual stains and what's supposed to look like stains. For example, there's some fake coffee stains on the back of this, and you can kind of see the little thing, Penelope Young. These are the private notes of Dr. Penelope Young. They concern treatments and diagnoses of Arkham Asylum's current inmates and fall under patient confidentiality laws. If this journal is found, please return it to Dr. Young immediately. Patient notes private. And it's got a lot of like I said, it's got a lot of the concept art for the characters. So here you have Joker. This version's like Arkham Asylum's Joker is such a weird character because it's caught between the new Batman Adventures Joker, voiced by Mark Hamill, and the more modern Mark Hamill Jokers that have come out, where he's still kind of in that like kooky, zany thing and isn't full on just a monster, but like he still does say some very like crass joke. Like this game got a T for teen rating and ran with it. Like you can kind of tell that Paul Dini, who was a writer for this and also wrote for Batman, was doing a lot of stuff that he couldn't get away with on Batman. Like, for example, there's a lot of dead baby jokes, and one of the first things that Joker says in the game is that maybe he'll kill Gordon and post it on the internet, which could only have existed in sort of that, like, live leak era of the internet. Like, I never saw human stuff. Like, that's one of the benefits of my mom being so restrictive with internet access is I never saw that shit. Pardon my French. Anyway, and so yeah, there's some very nice, like, things here. So, yeah. So you can kind of see hints toward the story too, like Joker, she writes down Mr. White. And then you have this for Killer Croc, Zaz, Bane, central subject for Titan research. Here's Harley. Trying to find... here we go. We have Scarecrow. So, I didn't know Scarecrow was going to be in the game in the way he was. And it was such an awesome surprise. Like, Cillian Murphy's version of Scarecrow is what made me like him. This version of Scarecrow was what made me love him. The high-pitched, cackling Dr. Crane, who, like, there is no Crane, only Scarecrow, and at the end of fear, oblivion. And a fantastic design with the noose keeping the burlap mask together and the gas mask and the stuff, and like just flawless. And then we get to Ivy. Paul Dini used to really identify with his rogues. But something happened, and I don't want to say it was the mugging, because he was mugged and it left him near dead. And he sadly became very, what's the word? Well, frankly, unsympathetic toward his rogue characters. Like, he writes Poison Ivy so awfully in this game. And Harley, too. And, like, you can really hear it specifically from Batman. He says Harley never was too bright. Bruce, buddy, she's a psychologist. She went to medical school for many years to earn that degree. Whatever. Anyway, then you get into the more ancillary characters. Like, for example, Scarface is in the game, but only loosely. Joker is actually the one using him. Then you have Riddler, who you never see on screen. You only get, you only get the radio messages from him. Clayface is a cameo in the game. He becomes a boss in the next game. Then you have the characters who aren't in the game, period. So Penguin, which you can really tell because they really jump from this. I like this design. This design kind of bridges the almost bestial Danny DeVito version with the more eccentric Burgess Meredith version. Mad Hatter, who's also in the next game, voiced by Peter MacNicol, aka Janosch, if you like Ghostbusters 2, or the American Mr. Bean movie. Great White Shark, he's from Arkham Living Hell. Two-Face, another character that doesn't get needed, that doesn't need to be, that isn't in the game until the city. Calendar Man, another city edition. And another massive redesign. Like, this you can argue is just somewhat stylized, because he does kind of have the pinkish skin, just not the white hair. Anyway, Humpty Dumpty, who I think is also from Living Hell, he's basically like, and yeah, all you assholes, there's your thing to draw comparisons to. Royce looks like the mentally handicapped dude from the, and yeah, that is unfortunately like, for example, okay, so the content warning, this is where it gets very greasy feeling with how they present this stuff. Developmentally disabled with an IQ of just under 70 and symptoms of emotional, the R word, and regression. As if just to... Dumpler is also extremely obese. Like, this is just vile. Of course, also it says, well, all self-furniture needs extra reinforcement. That is mean. This is a very mean book in retrospect. And then Mr. Freeze, who of course gets the best boss fight in the next game. Ratcatcher, who never really gets a chance to shine. He's basically killed off in the like preamble to the next game, but at least he gets a really good send up in the Suicide Squad with Ratcatcher 2, and a really surprisingly heart-wrenching, like, 2-minute cameo by oh Lord, What We Do in the Shadows, Thor Ragnarok, that guy. And Tweedledee and Tweedledum, more of the, like, Arkham. Basically, a lot of, like, the set dressing to this was really, like, third-tier Arkham characters who were never... Black Mask, yeah. He gets a cameo, and you kill him off as Red Hood in Night. Firefly, who does get to be a pretty big part of the next two games. And, of course, Warden Sharp. Oh, yeah, and let's see. Wait. Yeah. And then Batman. And then to try and show... and like, this is where it gets really mean toward Penelope herself. Additional notes. I presume a childhood free of trauma. Genetic predisposition. Oh my god, this is awful. And like I said, you don't... Doesn't say who wrote this, because it just says editor, assistant editor, and then lists the artists. But, no, like... like this book is full of eugenicist nonsense, IQs and genetic predispositions and all that crap. And like you could read that one of two ways. One, it's dated psychological mumbo jumbo cobbled together by the writing team. Two, it's meant to show that Penelope Young doesn't know what she's talking about. And honestly, that feels rather mean to the character, too. Like, they make this character for this game, and she gets killed off in a very grisly fashion. And they just use this to drag her name through the mud even more. I don't know. That said, it's a wonderful piece with a lot of like fun, lore for Arkham before it was really developed into its own little universe. Like that's my big problem with the Arkham games is that they went out from this, like Arkham Asylum can fit into almost any version of Batman, but the more they worked with it and tweaked it as it spread out over more games, the more the less applicable it became to Batman. You know what I mean? I prefer the simplicity of what we don't see. We do not see Riddler. We do not see Penguin. We get hints to them. We have all this other stuff that can bridge out and into the greater world, but the actual Arkham Asylum video game is so condensed, and every inch of that map is dripping with gorgeous detail. It almost makes it a shame to move on to Arkham City, which a lot of people prefer to Arkham Asylum. I personally don't. I think that Arkham Asylum is excellent and perfect in its own way. It's a small, self-contained narrative with a very detailed map full of gothic architecture and plays into that like gothic horror, that psychological drama. Um, because you're not just fighting a bunch of supervillains. You like Batman also is fighting some very powerful demons in just that. Like he's like it's cliche now, but he sees his parents die. You get that scarecrow hallucination. You get a really awesome hallucination where the whole game breaks and you're playing through it as Joker. Um, but I don't know. I don't think that any of the other games kind of reach that level, except for I don't know. I kind of like weirdly enough, I kind of like the Deathstroke fight in Origins, and I like some of the stuff in Night, which are two games that people despise. Well, they're two games that are polarizing. Um, Weirdly enough, I actually really like Night's ending for Mister Freeze's arc. All like I didn't Meltdown in Batman Beyond, where he like comes back and is given a new body, but then that body starts to decay the same way the old body did, and then he just dies fighting Blight. That was fine. And then the new 52 did a bunch of stuff with him and Nora, where like they made Nora a Silver Age actress, and they had him experimenting on animals and stuff. Which was dumb. But Arkham Knight gave Victor and Nora the best ending they could have gotten. Freeze's suit is irreparably damaged. He's going to die. Nora's thawed out from her cryogenic sleep. She's going to die. They sail off into the sunset together, spending what few moments they have left with each other. Perfect. That is perfect. That is the best ending for them. Um, similar things with um, uh, uh, I there is also a weird thing about because Frieza's story in Night is part of this like big expansion pack where you get uh, Freeze, Raish, Mad Hatter, and Killer Croc. Not levels, but like side missions added to the game. And somehow everyone knows who Raish is. And it's like, dude, what the heck? Because, like, Raish isn't, because, he's the head of the League of Assassins, or League of Shadows, depending on who's writing. He should not be that well known. No one should know about the Lazarus Pit. No one should know that this dude is 600 years old. And yet the cops in the Gotham precinct are like, yeah, that Raish dude, he's ugh. No one has the right to live that long. Am I right, Bats? It's like, what the hell? I don't know. Also, the Arkham games have the worst Ra's al Ghul. He's voiced by D. Bradley Baker, which God bless him, he's a fantastic actor. But Raish is a 600-year-old assassin who is of either Chinese or Arabic descent. It kind of is nebulous. Um, in fact, one could even make the argument that he is a Uyghur, since like he's supposed to be from like a nomadic tribe in China, but he kind of spends a lot of the time in the Middle East and has an Arabic name. Um, anyway, but like, for as weird as it is to have a white guy perform him, I do think that David Warner did a good job. Uh, I think that Alexander Siddig's performance in Gotham is actually really good too. I don't like Gotham as a whole, but his performance was good. And but no, D. Bradley Baker not a good Raish. Uh, and he can voice a good villain. He played Tarlock in Legend of Korra. That was good, but not he can't do the head of the demon. No siree. That also had Stana Katek, aka Kate Beckett from Castle, as Talia. Not very good. Which I feel bad because Stana Katek, she got so screwed, man. ABC basically blacklisted her because she went to HR over some stuff Nathan Fillion did. I don't know. Anyway, I've spent way too long rambling. Yeah, it's been good revisiting this. This was a fun little jaunt. Anyway, I gotta head to bed. Y'all have a good one. I'm sorry, this might be the last video I post this week, just because, it is what it is. Y'all have a good one. I look forward to the next time I post. Hopefully I'll be able to get something new for Let's Try. This is Royce Miller, signing out.